jump into this match. I cannot wait for the finals of the Manatraders series here in February.
All right. Once again, the king on the play here, and we have I don't know, some key cards in the matchup that we want to see in opening hands. Corey, can you outline a few?
For the King,
Yeah.
yeah, I think for the King, you really want to see that Thoughtseize into Ren and just have that available. Outside of that, Bitter Reunion into that very quick, persistent out the Archon. I think that's what you want to be looking for. But even just Ren to start, very good. Controls that Risen Reef draw, which is these elemental decks. Risen Reef is definitely the scariest card.
Yeah, for sure. And we're gonna see here, speaking of Risen Reef in the hand here for Arius, and then Teferi, Time Raveler, and a copy of Ephemerate as well. So this is a pretty slow hand from the control side, but most hands are. Red and Six going to come into play now.
Yeah, Teferi being a decent draw there, at least being able to protect. And now I learned of this static. I think this is a new static ability they added to the card where you cannot play stuff during your opponent's turn or at instant speed. Being able to play Teferi and then go Risen Reef. So then if Ren negatives on the Risen Reef, you can ephemerate without any kind of lightning bolt or anything to be interacting with. So that's kind of what it looks like we're setting up. But I agree with you. That's pretty slow.
Yeah, and Bitter Reunion going to find a couple of Fable of the Mirror Breakers. Land number 3 comes into play here for the King Teferi on, sorry, Red and 6 on 5, excuse me. At Red and 6 actually by itself, kind of a scary threat. I mean, if it gets to Ultimate, we haven't seen that yet, but in this matchup that is slow and easygoing, that is something real to be concerned about.
Yeah, it definitely is. Otherwise, it's not amazing. I mean, you're just like casting persists, a bunch of lightning bolts to the face. That's pretty good. Some extra thought seizes, pretty much thought seize at any point. That is also cool. Otherwise, the emblem is not amazing, but totally agree with you. In this matchup, it's especially awesome.
All right, Teferi now in play, ticking up to 5 loyalty. Going to unlock that turn 4 play you were talking about. Sweet, sweet Risen Reef with ephemerate value.
All right. And now this was supposed to be the turn for that creativity to be able to go Dwarven Mine creativity right now, but doesn't have it and just kind of has to play one of these fair turns of Fable the Mirror Breaker. And then you have the decision of crack Reunion and force that attack right now, which I actually really love since you can pair it with Dwarven Mine. Oh, this is sick because then you can attack Teferi down to 2 if that is chosen to do. And then you at least don't get the pump. Yeah, love it. Oh, and then you can lightning bolt it. Yeah, you can just straight deal with Teferi. This is pretty spicy.
Oh, yeah, that's actually a pretty creative DIY way to take down 5 loyalty on a planeswalker, and looking really strong here for the king.
Yeah, I'm guessing the King's not going to bolt it. Otherwise, well, all right. I can finally point out one for sure mistake where I don't see any way that I can screw it up. That dwarf should have went to the face because Teferi ended at -1 loyalty. I'm sure there's going to be something in chat that I missed for this, but as far as I can see, probably missed a point of damage there.
Well, here we go. Risen Reef now finally going to come into play here, and talk to me about how we're going to play with this ephemerate. Do we just instantly fire it off? Do we wait for the Ren and 6 to activate? What's the play?
I think I wait for the Renin 6. Otherwise, you're just going to lose Renin 6. And you're kind of so far behind here that I think you have to go for the really high upside of your opponent not having another play. But with this Thoughtseize, with Bolt in hand, all this good stuff going on, the King's going to have the information and not fall for any of these really big blowout plays.
Yeah, that was a pretty violent top deck there. I mean, Lightning Bolt did take care of Teferi. Kind of left them open here for the Risen Reef to be ephemerated, but now here, another Lightning Bolt just immediately ripped off the top here, going to take care of Risen Reef, and leaving Arius with not too much left over. A couple lands and the single Risen Reef.
Yeah, don't count out Arias though, as far as what we've been seeing as far as the last game, because well, we counted them out before that, and this was kind of a beating.
Yeah, Renin 6 on 7, second Fable of the Mirror Breaker now entering play. The hand is Mountain, Tarn, Mire, and Persist. But we can fix that a little bit with the second chapter of the freshly played Fable.
Okay, so there is Risen Reef. And a reminder to anyone who is, really just watches the gameplay and stuff after this, we are going to be having a winners interview afterwards to talk to one of these players. One thing that we, don't get to do as much when it's an online tournament. So make sure to stick around as we chat with one of these winners.
All right. Well, down a game in the finals. 4-color Omnath back against the wall here. It's do or die. Any sideboard cards you're looking forward to out of here?
I don't know. I mean, at this point, playing against the King, who's 5-0 in games so far, you just gotta start doing some crazy stuff. Just bring in some cards you don't expect because whatever the King has been, doing, he's been prepared for just about everything. So outside of that, I cards that we for sure want, I would say, are Ovar. Ovar all form is excellent. That is the only thing that card is for is this matchup. The one right below Kozilek. For anybody is wondering, what that card really does is it says whenever you're forced to discard it, which Archon would make you forced to do, it comes in as a copy of either any creature or the creature that made you discard. Doesn't matter. It's always copying Archon, and then they have to sacrifice the Archon they just put into play back and discard a card. So it's kind of a Spider-Man meme, I would say, them pointing at each other, but it ends up working out for the 4-color mid-range deck by quite a lot. Also, Hollowed Moonlight being another card that is just a 2-mana cryptic command on all these creativities. So Arias does have the tools for this
Yeah.
matchup. Those are both great tools in this matchup.
Speaking of tools, one interesting tool that we're seeing here is Magus of the Moon in the opener alongside double abundant growth. How do you feel about that one?
Well, I feel pretty hilarious about it since the opponent's hand just has 2 basic mountains in it. But, of course, there is other lands to be finding. But yeah, I mean, that's a great start. Abundant growth this turn. Now, no matter what, abundant growth will be adding any mana. And you get that Magus down on turn 3. Right now, the King doesn't really have a great, play. Really wants to top deck a fetch land to play Ren and 6 here.
Yeah, that Blood Crypt is a pretty good draw. Turns on the Terminator here, but really rolling the dice with double Mountain and like 3 multicolored spells and Indomitable Creativity that you can't cast. Ren and 6 off the top here
Whoa!
is
Banger there.
perfect draw here for Arias to fill out that turn 2 curve.
Oh, insane. Perfect draw here to be able to get Ren and 6 out there. The one problem is now you do have 2 mountains in plays, I guess, and you don't have Terminate available for Magus of the Moon currently. But the one thing you do have is just, well, Fable the Mirror Breaker as a red card, Indomitable Creativity as a red card. So you can still cast your spells into this, but that is still going to be awkward if Magus does hit the battlefield this turn.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how the next turn plays out because in my mind, I feel like Magus is still going to be really good, denying the Terminate, denying the Ren and 6, and it's possible that it isn't actually as good as I thought it was because it like when I first saw Magus, when I first saw the Ren and 6, tapping out of the stomping ground of the Blood Crypt to put it into play, I was kind of like that Breaking Bad meme where it's just like Walter White in the car and he's like, "No, don't do it, Jesse, don't do it."
Yes. That is my all-time favorite show. So yeah, question me on any Breaking Bad trivia. I love that show. Bryan Cransted's my hero, favorite
He,
actor by far.
dude, from Hal from Malcolm in the Middle to Walter White, it's
He's
a
had a rough life,
crazy.
man. Rough life to get where he was, just being yelled at by his wife and Malcolm to where he is now. But anyways, y'all didn't come here to listen to Breaking Bad trivia. That's our podcast we're gonna start, right?
Yeah. All right, so Magus of the Moon now in play here. The Forest with the Abundant Growth is able to still tap for any color of mana here, Plains and Temple Garden. So mana online for Arias. Fable of the Mirror Breaker going to come into play. Put a Goblin token that could make treasures that unlock, other colors here. But
Yeah,
as it stands, kind of locked out of the hand here.
100%. And that was a huge top deck. I was wondering if we were going to fire a Leyline's Binding off on just a Shaman token here when you really want to save some of your other removal spells. But with picking up another one and picking up a Solitude as well, I think you slam Leyline's Binding on a Goblin Shaman here. And now you got to wait till Reflection of Kiki Jiki goes to chapter 3 and then Creativity that. There's no Dwarven Mind shenanigans. You can discard some of these uncastable cards, Ren and 6 being the number one, but outside of that, this game is going to be really, really tough for the King. That was a great draw, though.
Yeah, another Fable, rinse and repeat, try to get more mana here, but maybe the disruption is just enough because creeping out of the hand here for our 4-colored player is Omnath, Locus of Creation. So we'll see if we can get that one into play. But in the meantime, there's a current situation, Ren and 6 ticking up, getting more lands, Fable coming into play. I think And tell me if I'm wrong, but Arius seems pretty favored here.
Very favored. Yeah, I would definitely say favored. Omnath is slightly awkward when you have Magus of the Moon on. We never have that kind of over the top crazy turn. So it's definitely not out of realm that this creativity can have multiple targets next turn. So this is going to be a really big next turn for the King and a really kind of tough choice for Arius here where you can cast any of your spells for sure. And you can Leyline's Binding the Shaman right now. Then, if the king goes for creativity on the flipped reflection, then you can pitch Omnath to Solitude, and boom, neither of you have anything, and we kind of start over from there. But we'll see. This is going to be the key turn of this match.
Yeah, what's fascinating to me is that like let's hypothesize that we end up in that situation. Who is actually ahead? Is it the mono red player? Okay, it's not really mono red, but the mono mountains player in Indomitable Creativity, or the Magus player who does have two abundant growths on separate lands, so does have access to a decent amount of colors here.
Yeah,
It's
all the
tough to
colors.
say. Yeah,
Yeah, if it wasn't for that second Fable, I would say Arias was miles ahead. But that second Fable was such a great draw, producing two creatures that I think it's much closer. And wow, this is maybe the one play that is going to guarantee Archons coming into the battlefield. So
Is this like a
I'm
reverse Doctor Strange moment where you had 14 million lines and only one would lose? And I've been in that seat so many times where I just find the one line that loses me the game. But even let's be real here, right? Even if Archon does come into play, I don't think it's the end of the world because you can
no.
still Leyline Binding, right, to get rid of the Archon.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world. So this is not going to be GG by any means. It's going to be Arias discarding one of the lands, getting rid of probably Solitude, maybe Magus. Getting rid of Magus is pretty rough. To be fair, it's there's a lot of things that can go wrong, but this definitely just puts the advantage bar right in the middle, and this is anyone's game.
Which is also pretty exciting. I mean, like let's also remember, like Arias, in game 3 of the semifinals, went all the way down to one life here and crawled all the way back in. And I kind of get the feeling that we're gonna see this happen to the King as well, right? Like has no mana available. We're gonna try to get Indomitable Creativity online with this Archon, see what we can get together, and maybe we'll just be able to steal this game and take down the entire tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah. And of course, you can just sacrifice the planeswalker. That's much better than choosing between one of these creatures. And now you have Leyline's Binding. Okay, this is much better. And now you have Solitude as well. Um, Now it is going to put the pressure back onto the King to find another creativity. As it stands, the King just has uncastables and no real way to push ahead. So if this draw step isn't there next turn where you either have Fable or number one creativity, then we're in a lot of trouble here for any King fans.
I think it's pretty ironic that this deck that just basically only has mountains is losing to a Magus of the Moon. Some sort of poetic justice here.
It is hilarious, and yeah, just shows the power of Fable. Because I put Fable, no big draw here, so huge advantage to Aris. But I've been putting Fable in basically every modern deck, not necessarily because it's always better than most of the decks I played, the alternative Ledger Shredder, but it's just really plays around Magus of the Moon. It plays around Blood Moon, which is very popular right now with the huge rise of Amulet, at least for a week or two. I think it has calmed down quite a bit, but
And plus, like it's such a low cost too, because you do have access to cards like Eladamri's Call, which means that this could be like a tutorable silver bullet. I would say
yeah.
exactly what the kind of card that you want. Really good in some matchups and very low investment.
Totally agree with you. So now Solitude coming in, nothing off the top, and oh my, we might have to all gasp together. Could the King actually lose a game and force a game 3 in the finals of the Manatrader series? It's kind of
No,
looking
no,
like
no,
it.
don't even say that. Don't even whisper that. That is yeah, that is no way that could happen.
And at this point with the Solitude, there's just no set of draws outside of, I suppose, Lightning Bolt from the King. Start with Lightning Bolt and then kind of go nuts, but you don't even have the Persist to bring the Archon back because it's stuck under Leyline's Binding. You do have the Beseiju though, so that would unlock that. So Lightning Bolt is probably the draw that would keep the King into this. How about
Well,
an
how
8
about
drop
another
then?
Archon?
Yeah, yeah. That one's not looking great.
It's
But
funny because we
yeah,
do have like 8 lands in play, or are able to put 8 lands in play. We just Magus is like working overtime here. I mean, this is
yeah.
maybe on the draw, this is like the kind of corner case scenario where it's like super exciting, but I have to imagine in game 3 we'll see some sort of like plan for it.
And I think there was a plan, but there was a plan for Omnath. Magus was probably ignored a bit. We see Fatal Push, we see Terminate in hand, and those are great against Omnath. If you can ever go with the trigger on the stack of drawing a card and kill Omnath before you get the absurd abilities with it, that's great. That is a way to beat this deck. But I'm sure some lightning bolts were cut in exchange for those removal spells. So we might have to see a switch back to respect Magus of the Moon, even though Lightning Bolt is not a good removal spell in this matchup at all.
Yeah, and I think that's really just brilliant sideboarding too, right? Which is like you present a specific problem to your opponent, which is like, here are my 4/4s, here's my 4/7, here's my this, that, that. You definitely don't want lightning bolt, and then you go like, bang,
Mhm.
got him. Here's my 2/2 that completely shuts you down unless you have the card that's bad against exactly the rest of my deck. So
Yeah.
what's interesting now is what if we go like down this little path of mind games. What if we cut the Magus to the Moon, or don't not necessarily cut it, but put it on a little bit lower priority list, to focus on punishing our opponent for maybe bringing back in a couple extra copies of Lightning Bolt on the draw.
Yeah, I mean, whenever you lose to a card that badly, your opponent. I mean, the person that lost to it, you're going to adjust, and your opponent knows the same thing. So I absolutely love doing those kind of crazy pivots where I think I would love to see Arias take out Magus of the Moods altogether and just go from there. It'll be interesting to see which player wins this because we'll get the interview process and we'll hear a little bit. There's a lightning bolt in hand from the king.
Oh yeah, I bet that's influencing the decision here as we go into game 3, the final game of the tournament here. 1-1 for each player. The King putting on a spectacular showing today, playing this indomitable creativity list. And on the other hand, Arias on 4-color Omnath. I think the King is on a mulligan to 6 now, but does have red and 6 in the hand, compared to, check it out, Mom Midrain All-Star Elish Norn.
Absolutely. And honestly, Elish Nord felt like a meme in these decks. Like, yeah, whatever, add one. If it survives, it's going to be super cool. But the ways that you kill that card have these triggered abilities coming into play, or it's Unholy Heat and it's got a big butt, like, so it's got 7 toughness. You can't deal with it with Unholy Heat. It truly has a lot of places in the metagame kind of on lock right now is the ways to kill that card. Teferi Bounce is like the best thing I can think of, in the metagame. So I think that card's impressive.
Yeah, and I think in this matchup specifically too, right? Like the Archon ETB does get shut down by Elish Norn, which is a
Mhm.
pretty big thing to be worried about, especially when you invest all these resources like Indomitable Creativity, the creature that you're getting rid of, maybe a treasure token here or there, and the payoff for that to be nothing
Wait,
is
Anurag, I got to stop you here. We're about to see something real bad. Collective Brutality is about to miss, right? Isn't it? Oh,
whiff.
wait, it's non creature. Can you hit Abundant Growth? I thought it was instant or sorcery.
I think it's duress mode. Yeah, instants and sorceries. Sorry, not duress mode. Instants and sorceries. Yeah.
Just the old 2 mana, do nothing. That's not great. Wow.
All right. Well, this is not how you really want your finals to go. You're already on a mulligan, and then you mulligan effectively again with the collection brutality not doing anything.
And now this Solitude, both players know Solitude can just pitch to deal with the token before Archon even comes into play.
I'm just gonna say, push come to shove, I really, really hope we're pitching the Omnath and not the Elishnorn, just because it's like ethically, morally the correct thing to do. We must get Elishnorn into play on camera, winning the finals of this event for Twitter. Just we must do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Have mom taking it down here, and it's looking pretty good. Here's the nice thing about this situation here. I guess it does get a little iffier. I was just gonna say you can absolutely just slam Omnath here and have Solitude to protect, but you really can't because there is a second fetch land. You are able to creativity for 2 here. So yeah, I like that play. You have to leave Solitude plus Ephemerate open.
Yeah, good point. And that'll take care of everything that you're worried about, and then also potentially if there's a follow-up threat too. All in all, if I had to say it, I'd say the advantage bar massively leaning towards the four-color player side.
100%. 100%. The tools are there. And I mean, even if you just jam Elish Norn next turn, we'll see if one of these lightning bolts was taken out for terminate, which would have been an insane answer to this. you
Yeah,
know, just,
right?
just the
Mind
pivot, just
games.
yeah, 100%. And now you don't even really want to go for this. Ephemerate might have been a card that was not known, and then you for sure go for this when we saw Collective Brutality. Yeah, of course it wasn't because it would have been taken. So yeah, they
Mhm.
don't know about Solitude. So we'll see what card is going to be pitched, if it's Elish Norn or if it's Omnath, to go Solitude and Ephemerate here before these come into play.
There it is. Solitude. No! Pitching the Elish Norn. No!
No, well, mom, still helped out the kids, I guess. What a mom should be doing, huh?
Yeah, good enough. And I mean, Omnath also probably going to be just as good at taking the game, taking over the game here. I
If
guess
not better, yeah.
one big thing to be aware of is that Elishnorn doesn't actually prevent the Archon attack trigger, so it isn't immune completely in this matchup. And then also cards like Terminate do exist, so I think this is the stable. I want to win the tournament. I want $3,000. I'm a god gamer, and this is what I got to do to win. Kind of move, so I
Yeah,
can get
that
behind
makes
it.
sense. That makes sense. I already screwed up to Fairy Time Raveler, a card that's been around forever. So I was just gonna wait till mom hit the battlefield and then just give that card a reread. But now it looks like we don't have to.
Don't worry. I mean, that's why you and I are here in the booth and not in the finals right now, right? Just
Absolutely.
different time, different life. Yeah.
I gotta play Modern next weekend though, so I gotta learn here real quick, huh? I've been in Pioneer mode. All right, but here's Lightning Bolt for Solitude. And then you have just Archon with 6 mana, so you're still a ways away. This Omnath gets to just go and play. It can deal 4 damage with the creature itself with a couple fetch lands paired up, and you can attack. So the king is left with 1 draw step to deal with this specific Omnath. And then if that's dealt with, has to deal with the next Omnath. So the king might be dethroned here real quick.
Yeah, and so what is the best draw here then? What can we possibly top deck to, put ourselves in a better position? Because yeah, I'd be really surprised. It would be great to see if like the metagame decision in
That's
sideboarding,
it.
we cut the terminates for like lightning bolts and some sort of thing here. Or oh, what is this?
So Beseju to deal with this, then you get a land back. I guess you can get a land back and get a Dwarven Mine. You get a fetch land, you get a Dwarven Mine, you can block Omnath and then bolt it. So, okay, we're live. We're live. Oh, but actually, as I say that, with Beseju bringing in a land, you can crack both fetches and deal the 4 damage right now. But, that is still leaving you without any fetch lands active. We'll be putting the king down to 4, and then the Omnath next turn won't have enough lands to make 3 land drops. So yeah, this Dwarven Mine will be able to do it.
I'm now seeing how this goes wrong. Disaster.
Impressive, impressive. Disaster being avoided. But to be fair, Arias cannot play 3 lands next turn. Oh, of course. Oh, that's really smart. You put the triggers on the stack and then Ren doesn't even get to activate. Wow, big brain play there from Arias to win this tournament.
Yeah,
That was
there it is.
awesome.
Omnath in the red zone, swinging in, turning right from 4-0. Lightning bolt, not a terminate.
That was great. Putting those triggers on the stack to make sure that Ren doesn't get an activation. Really awesome stuff. And Arias is gonna be the champion of the Manatraders series in February featuring Modern. We're gonna be seeing Arias